brother-in-law lives in Palm Springs.
Heaven. It's but it is very expensive.
Yeah, it's the rub.
It is indeed.
Turns out where it's 60 and 70 and sunny all year, people want to live.
At San Diego, it's like 11 inches of rain annually. And the temperature range is like 55 to 80.
They see clouds, they call an emergency, you know.
Oh yeah, no, like there was like a brief bit of wind
Yeah.
once, and they were like, oh, we have to go inside. And like, you grew up in Michigan. What happened to you?
I decided to leave.
Yeah, truly.
It's like one of my favorite statistics is, you know, they always talk about Seattle being the most overcast and depressing city in the United States, and Lansing is quite literally second as far as number of overcast days.
I believe that. I believe that.
It's not bad.
First day, felt positive, which means it's several months, so it's a plus.
I don't know how everyone views this yesterday the way I do. I think it was two things. I think it was a rebuke of Trump's like by and large. But I also see it as like a rebuke of like corporate Democrats.
Yes, this is in Georgia, I think,
Over those ones.
so it's the first statewide, non-federal elected Dem in Georgia in over 20 years. Two statewide seats flipped to Dems by 20-point margins. Now, admittedly, it's a relatively low turnout statewide election.
Not exactly the same now.
But still, it's Georgia.
This
No
almost
one
seems
was
like a
trying to
condition
about this, but like Livonia City Council
comparison to
election,
24.
they didn't elect like someone who was been there forever and this like slash margins with like the border and she didn't even place.
That Steve King guy.
No, thank God. No.
How does that feel? Like that super right in which
No,
I
it
felt
was Kaylee Catherine Reed, Patrick Brockway, Eileen McConnell, and Robin Cushman. They didn't elect her. And Robin, who like I like, she's a friend, but she took the tactic of playing it like very safe in the middle.
Yeah.
And she's fine, but like she had the lowest number of votes. So like
Speed, be authentic. That's the most important thing.
If you do it, you communicate enough and you're responsive enough, I think you can have positions a lot further out than people.
I mean I probably tried to
Yeah, it's very safe.
I was gonna say.
No, but I'm saying, like, yeah, I guess no one's spending money on it.
No. Like I think I named Livonia into elected interface.
It's one thing like Bush and Camilleri, like I
Yeah.
remember Camilleri was first running, he literally had like a 40-page campaign platform, and it was all stuff like, you know, same-sex marriage, protections, like everything that you could see that, everything, because I always told you it's a terrible idea for, especially like a Dem university, and it worked out fine for him. Because if you're proactive about it, it'll be fine. Just, you know,
I do think there's like something to even in same sex like authenticity because like I like in gardens and I don't perform hair like she's coming.
It was fun. I mean, it was a little, yeah, I think it went well, but it's just.
Did you get something to stop charismatic animals?
I said they weren't going to. I said they weren't going to kill the deer. That's fine. If they didn't get sure they were going to kill it, they're not going to.
The House Oversight Subcommittee on Corporate Subsidies and State Investments will come to order. Will the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Cara,
Here.
Representatives Green, Beerline,
Here.
Wagella,
Here.
Pahutsky.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 4 members present. You do have a quorum.
Minority Vice Chair Wagella moves to approve the minutes of the October 29th meeting without objection. So ordered. Originally, I had invited the MEDC to testify on the latest developments of the Gotion EV battery plant. They agreed, but later reached out and requested not to testify today, given the ongoing nature of the default and their efforts to claw back the $23.6 million in SSRP money that was dispersed. The MEDC has always been willing to testify and engage with the community on pressing topics regarding corporate subsidies, and I appreciate their participation. I understand the circumstance here and respect their desire not to testify at this time. Gotion's default is not surprising in the sense that corporate subsidy deals tend to fail. Time after time, this committee has seen recurring themes with massive corporate giveaways. Taxpayer dollars are wasted, jobs don't materialize, and the politically connected disrupt local communities in hopes of taxpayer-funded financial gain. A recent study conducted by the Mackinac Center revealed that only around 9% of announced jobs come to fruition from subsidy agreements. That's a poor return on investment for taxpayers and fiscally irresponsible from state government. The Mackinac Center study concentrated on data from 2000 to 2020. Since then, Michigan's track record with corporate handouts has only worsened. SOAR was created by the legislature in 2021, and it has produced a string of additional failures, from the abandoned Gotion EV battery plant to the fledgling Blue Oval project in Marshall to SanDisk backing out of the Mundy megasite. As a state, we're batting .09, likely worse since 2020, and there's no reason to believe that will improve. Many see 25 years of failure and believe that our state government just hasn't found the right answer yet. The idea that we can continue the fundamentally flawed practice of corporate handouts in a way that is less bad is erroneous. There's no indication that the state is capable of facilitating economic development in a way that both respects market trends and provides significant return on taxpayer dollars. Besides, it's not the proper government to drive the economy. Putting up guardrails saying you can't poison your neighbor, lie to customers, or otherwise defraud people, and how many guardrails are needed and why are legitimate conversations. But what is not legitimate is to tell hardworking middle-class families and small businesses that they must pay higher taxes to subsidize government and big business centrally planned schemes that confiscate their money for the profit of the politically connected. Many also believe we can't give up on corporate welfare because states with better economies offer handouts to connected businesses. It's not our concern that other states have jumped off the bridge of corporate giveaways. Instead, Michigan has the opportunity to take the lead on protecting free and equal opportunity for all businesses by leading the charge with less rules, regulations, taxes, fines, and fees for everyone. Government doesn't know how to drive the economy, and it never will. The free market is the best economic driver, and market processes should not face artificial interference by government. While SOAR deals typically include performance metrics, the details are often generous and can easily be amended. I hope that clawback efforts will be successful because the people of Michigan are long overdue for some good news regarding Michigan's abysmal record with corporate giveaways. Gotion was particularly egregious. An EV battery plant was set to be located in a rural township who is still bogged down in litigation and should be reimbursed for legal fees battling this company tied to the CCP. As the committee previously explored, Chinese corporations are obligated to commit espionage on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, a practice Michigan is already far too familiar with given recent incidents at Camp Grayling and the University of Michigan. The details of this deal were appalling. Years ago, I, along with two of my colleagues, talked to 36 residents of Green Charter Township. 30 of the 36 surveyed said explicitly they did not want the project. They deserve their money and their way of life back. Compelling Michiganders to pay for a project the local community was strongly against is a recurring theme. The state needs to make every effort to claw the money that was expended back. However, it's not just enough to claw the money back. The people deserve more than that. It's time to reconsider how we as a state approach economic development. The free market will yield better results for everyone rather than allowing state government to pick winners and losers. If a company wanted to talk to people and buy land for a factory in an honest and transparent way, more power to them. Let the market decide the details of production and protect free opportunity for all. Those are my opening remarks regarding the situation with Gotion, and I just want to now welcome up, we have one person testifying. That is the Honorable Joseph Sella. If you'll come up and give your testimony on the Gotion EV battery plant, we're looking forward to hearing from you as always.
Well, good morning, Chairman Cara. Thank you. And good morning, Vice Chairman Weigela and fellow committee members. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you this morning. I come to you as a patriotic citizen compelled to shine a light on what is likely one of the worst examples of state-driven economic development in the history of the state of Michigan. The corrupted deal with Gotion, Inc., a company deeply tied to the Chinese Communist Party, that wasted Michigan taxpayer dollars and jeopardized our national security. This was no mere business transaction gone awry. The Gotion deal was concocted and championed by Governor Whitmer, MEDC CEO Quentin Messer, the Right Place, and CCP-tied Gotion. Unconscionably, these government and business elites moved fast and in secret, rupturing the consent of the government. Zero transparency came from the Whitmer administration that had vowed to be the most transparent administration in Michigan history. This was made worse by the backers of the deal refusing to perform any strict scrutiny or due diligence, whether through a market analysis, technology assessment, studying consumer demand, the prospective ROI in taxpayer dollars, and certainly geopolitical dynamics. These backers also defied the directives of our national security and intelligence agencies to vet such a deal with a CCP-tied company that was involved in a textbook subnational incursion and influence operation designed to burrow deep into the heartland of Michigan. And I would note that's a short hop away from the secure U.S. military installation of Camp Grayling. Gotion was also lobbying without registering its lobbyists, only later registering after we at the China Economic and Security Review Group exposed them. And it is believed that Gotion still has an individual under their employ who appears to be operating as an unregistered foreign agent in violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. This deal entirely lacked best practices and wholly manifested the worst of practices. I'm going to do a bit of a rewind and tick through the timeline of this corrupted deal for you. September of 22, the Detroit News first reports the CCP-tied Gotion plant coming to Mecosta County. And days later, skids greased, 3 local township boards, Green Charter Township, among others, unanimously approved tax exemptions without public input, sparking clamor of what the local rank-and-file citizens considered as a surprise attack, if you will, and certainly lack of transparency. October 22nd, Governor Whitmer, MEDC, announces this, quote-unquote, the largest economic development project in northern Michigan history, $750 million in incentives, $175 million in grants, $540 million in tax breaks, and certainly the local opposition began to take shape then. It was much ballyhooed, with some saying once-in-a-generation deal, transformational deal, once-in-a-century project. February of 23, Detroit News reporter Beth LeBlanc revealed the Gotion deal and the Ford cattle deal were papered over with secret code names and binding punitive NDAs signed by lawmakers, staffers, and other government officials. April of 23, the monies were approved for Gotion by narrow votes, and protests began to scale with the locals. In June, concerns escalated into a very politically charged debate. Local residents and elected officials began to dig deep, and Gotion CCP ties began to be revealed, though the company denied it and its representatives. August of 23, 5 University of Michigan engineering graduate students who were Chinese nationals were found spying at Camp Grayling during Operation Northern Strike, a multilateral military exercise that featured Taiwanese troops. They were charged by the FBI and fled to China days later. November of 23, the governed in Green Township mobilized a recall, recalling elected officials there, 5 of them, one actually in Big Rapids Township, who supported the Gotion project fully. February of 24, Gotion began cutting trees and preparing the land for the site of the proposed deal, purchased an old department store, and all of this being done without prior approvals being given. In March of 24, the Township Board voted to rescind the previously approved plan to extend the city's Big Rapids water supply to the plant site, prompting Gotion to file a breach of contract lawsuit. And I would note that that is textbook lawfare according to how the CCP rolls, and ironic in that a final contract was never approved by the Green Charter Township Board. In May of '24, a federal judge issued an injunction requiring the township to abide by the original agreement, but the township appealed, and as you noted, Chairman, it now sits in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, where Green Township has appealed. At that point, Gotion paused its permitting process, and I think they knew at that point it was an uncertain future. It became a national political issue with unique focus after then candidate Trump and then candidate Vance campaigning highlighted the national security concerns and the corrupt nature of the deal. Later that year and earlier this year, Mecosta County revoked its support for the project after they won control of the county board based on the ties to those incumbents backing the Gotion deal. September of this year, the MSF sent a letter to Gotion declaring the company in default, voluntary abandonment for no activity, due to no activity over 120 days. Gotion certainly responded a few days later with the shrill charge of being politically motivated opposition and immense challenges. And then the MEDC is now attempting to claw things back in the funding that was let from Gotion. But this has been a total debacle and a colossal waste of time and taxpayer dollars. It's an example of how not to conduct business and do economic development, if that's even a role for state government to play. All of this, every bit of this, could have been avoided. Had the most basic of due diligence and strict scrutiny been performed, the weakness would have been on display for all Michigan taxpayers to see, and you, their representatives. It took patriotic citizens weeks and months to pull back the curtain, doing very hard work on the wizards secretly working the levers of this corrupted deal and expose them in all of its inner workings. While the dust is still settling and some unknown things lingering, I think it's good to, celebrate, take a breather from what appears to be Gotion's impending demise in Michigan, while remaining, as it is said in Latin, semper vigilans, always vigilant. And I appreciate your good work here today to continue your deep dive on the way business has been done. Citizens in Green Charter Township exemplified how our founding fathers got it right. Sovereignty comes from the citizens. After government and business elites worked fast and in secret, they righteously rebelled, educating and mobilizing fellow citizens and exposing the head-to-tail corruption of this deal. The consent of the governed was violated. They rose up, exercised their constitutional rights against all odds through prayer and hard work, and made history in the United States of America. For them, it was the first time in our nation's history government officials faced a recall election and were thrown out of office because of their entanglement with their dealings with a CCP-tied company. These citizens are models of faith, courage, strength, tenacity, and patriotism. They wrote the playbook for other communities across the United States to follow who may face similar circumstances. And you here, representatives, I would suggest are writing the next chapter of that playbook. It's very important and can't be overstated. It was a blessing, a joy, an honor, and a privilege to fight with these patriotic citizens who had the hardest jobs on the front lines of this battle in a community that was torn apart. Now, my aim, and I hope shared by you, is to help make Green Charter Township whole through the paying in its entirety of their final attorney fees from the unconscionable lawfare being waged against them by CCP-tied Gotion. And I will remain vigilant with these citizens in the fight against other risky moves and business by government and business elites that may be afoot, particularly when it involves any entanglements whatsoever with the CCP and its agents and operatives. Chairman Cara and Vice Chairman Wigela, ultimately I hope you work together and say no more to these sort of economic development antics and perhaps even considering the elimination of the MEDC. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today and am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ambassador Sella, and thank you for your testimony today. I just wanted to start off with the numbers. There was $125 million in CIP or critical infrastructure project funding that never got appropriated to Gotion. But then of the $50 million in SSRP or Strategic Site Readiness Program funding, $23.6 million was appropriated to Goshen. And by this point, it seems like that is the main question in terms of money that has gone to them. Do you know where that money was spent?
I want to get this right, and you may correct me later, but I believe that the $50 million line item went to the right place. And the monies expended, as I understand it, were for land acquisition, site prep, and engineering work. I've been told that the engineering work done is not much at all. I think there are sort of receipts circulating around out there for what was, I think, paid to the right place and others. But it is well known and really shocked the locals of the grossly inflated price that was paid for that land. And it's again, just another element of the unconscionableness of this whole thing.
So in terms of any type of infrastructure, preparing for a massive building to be put there, it doesn't seem like that's been done. They've bulldozed a bunch of trees, and we just have this vacant area. And what do you think should happen with that property moving forward?
It's a great question, Representative. I guess also of note is that apparently the tree cutting and the land clearing, I think there was some grading done. That was done ahead of Goshen or the right place before they received any approval from Eagle. So as far as the land is concerned, I guess if I were to have a wish list, or I would say as a matter of justice, I would say through maybe plantings and transplantings, restore it to its once pristine state. I know that's some sensitive wetland there. I think that, again, wish listing here, an idea is to, God willing, Goshen plays nice and settles up with the state, and perhaps the state then does a quitclaim deed, and it is deeded to Green Charter Township for them to do with it as they wish.
That seems to make sense. A question I'd have with that is, we have the MEDC who had appropriated money to the right place, and then the right place to Goshen. And then the MEDC wants to come in and say, well, hold on, you guys didn't do what you said you were going to do. And that's true, but who is the victim in this circumstance? Is the MEDC the victim, or is it the taxpayers of Michigan and the township who are the victim? And what should happen with this property moving forward? Should the MEDC just be allowed to sell it to somebody else, or do you think that it should probably go a different route?
Yeah, I think that I leave it to your good offices to come to this, but I think that you use an interesting analogy. So I think back the old Cowboys and Indians days, the cowboys with the black hats and the cowboys with the white hats, sort of the good and evil representation. Symbolically, I would say that the actors, those involved, stakeholders wearing the white hats, I would definitely say are the Michigan taxpayers and the residents of Green Charter Township and Big Rapids Charter Township, I would say. Those wearing the black hats, I would just say would be Governor Whitmer and Quentin Messer and the right place and some other players out there that I just don't think had the interests of the governed at heart through this whole thing. So it's an open question. I think as a matter of justice, I mean, what they put Green Charter Township, the Michigan taxpayers, through the meat grinder, and I think is a goodwill gesture, quitclaim that deed to Green Charter Township, and it's a beautiful area, and I trust the leadership there to do well with it.
Very good. Next question from Vice Chair Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure to see you. And this may be out of your wheelhouse, but do you know what the annual budget of Green Charter Township is? I asked this last week, and I know we need to ask the Green Charter Township folks this, but you may have this answer. Do you have this answer?
I do not.
Okay. And I guess just the reason I ask is both townships, I imagine their budgets are very similar to my township's budgets. Very low maintenance. I mean, we're experiencing this right now in Greenwood, believe it or not. Very similar situation. And I guess, do you know how much the total legal fees were?
I don't. I think the meter is still on.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's running anymore. I'm semi-confident that the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals is going to level an adversarial ruling for Gotion against Gotion. I think the meter will still run. We'll see what Gotion does at that point, but I would say that we're at this point looking at an off-ramp. So I don't know what it is. I would say it's probably south of $1 million, but when you're talking about a rural township, not much tax base, very hardworking people who are in these tight inflationary times, work very hard for the basics. It is that takes a hit on their government. Now, they didn't seek this out. I think that there were some bad actors that got their township into this predicament. They did not have the rank and file citizens, the hardworking taxpayers' interests. They were not exercising their fiduciary responsibility in making these decisions, and it's just almost like a utopian hope and looked at this, field of dreams would materialize in it, and it did quite the opposite, sadly. So it has had an impact, and that's why I would hope also as a matter of justice that you and your good office and colleagues will work to make Green Township whole with their final bill. I know there's a run at through a possible appropriation in the budget bill, and that did not come to fruition. I know they did have some appropriated locally from the county through their marijuana proceed funds, and that helped a bit, but there's more to go.
Do you believe that Green Charter Township should be reimbursed for the legal fees that they have incurred in fighting against Gotion?
100%. Yep, this is really an unconscionable effort by a $40 billion company tied to the Chinese Communist Party that requires its employees to take an oath of fealty to the Chinese Communist Party. There's a video of this. And to see our government on multiple levels in cahoots with such an enterprise, I think it's a real shame that they have put exposed not only the taxpayers of Green Charter Township, Michigan, but also certainly exposing our national security. And justice ought to be served by making them whole.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Vice Chair Green.
So it's very rare that we get a former ambassador. So I do have a nuanced question. So economic development is really important, and I know when you were in Southeast Asia, we have really strong ties with our friends, especially in Taiwan. And so there's levels to this, because one, we're using really good farmland and green spaces for these mega projects. So I think that's issue number one. But I mean, issue number two is we do need to have some sort of economic development, prosperity, and we want to partner with those actors who are good behaviors, I guess. I don't like for example, and so do you have recommendations from your experience on moving forward and how we can approach that in the future?
Yeah, I think to the end of transparency, which I think has been lacking heretofore with this corrupted deal, I would suggest you consider having hearings, field hearings, talk to experts, sit down with them, see what they have to say. But I would, consider you study the model of what I think Governor DeSantis did, and I think he brought all things economic development into the governor's office. So you don't need a bureaucracy, you don't need a building, sell the building, and that can be done. And you hire the necessary staff within an executive office to do that. You don't need hundreds of people to do that. You find the deals, work the deals in a sound way. Best practices, do all the stress tests that this did not get, and I think you'll get there. I think it might also be, I think Representative Carra Chairman Carra spoke to a study done in terms of the efficacy of the MEDC investments over the years. I'm not familiar with that, but I think as deep and a broad look at that to point to an alternative way where the burn rate and the ROI is negligible. So my modest suggestions in response to your question.
Do you think it's likely that Gotion High Tech bails out the American subsidiary Gotion for this project?
Yeah, great question, Chairman Carra. I think that when you're talking with China, you may have a mothership in China, Gotion High Tech. They sort of anglicized their name Gotion, one part for PR purposes, but the money is all just fungible. I mean, you may be papered corporately, you may have a different bank account, but it's really one and the same. So candidly, they could have afforded all that Michigan taxpayers were put over the barrel for. And again, that just shows how influence operations and the subnational incursions work, and unfortunately we're duped. So I appreciate you and your colleagues here bringing light onto that to make sure that doesn't happen again. Very important.
Next question from Minority Vice Chair Wagella.
Yeah, I don't know if this is so much a question, but I just maybe we can get a response from it. But I was looking at the MEDC's website, and on there they have reports and data. And I went to Strategic Site Readiness Programs. You click on there, it says no reports found. So I just was curious. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the importance of, with any economic development deal, the importance of transparency and how some of that might be lacking here in the state.
Yeah, I think that excellent point, Vice Chair Wegela, and I think that is almost symbolic of what has been lacking here with this deal, and I would also suggest the Ford Cattle deal in Marshall. But I applaud you for pointing that out and noticing it, and I think an opportunity, to stay on this road, ask those hard questions. It's my understanding there may have been a CFO at MEDC and was sort of located within, and in recent weeks, they were on the move to hire a new CFO. Why wasn't there a CFO? If they had a CFO in recent years, could all of this been maybe avoided? I don't know. But these, I think, I really appreciate your leadership and service and in the oversight capacity, and I just keep after that, and happy to reappear and offer any other answers or insights that you may need.
Obviously, one way or another, something went wrong here with the process with Gotion. Who do you believe is at fault? Is it just Gotion alone, or would it be the MEDC, the governor? Who's at fault in this process?
Yeah, important question. A little bit of a lengthier response. I would say that I think you step back to maybe 35,000 feet and say, look, we are in the midst of the pandemic. I think a lot of government growth happened in this time, a lot of money moving. I don't think the best decisions were made. I think there was probably pressure on elected officials seeking to create jobs when jobs were lost. And certainly I think riding this wave, this utopian green wave fueled by the Biden administration and Secretary of Energy Granholm throwing hundreds of billions in loans and grants and incentives for the Green New Deal. And I think it fueled and inspired governors like Governor Whitmer and those surrounding her to engage and advocate and advance this, I think, high-risk, ill-thought-out, and poorly executed deal that left us exposed, taxpayers, national security. So I think that in Michigan, you certainly say Governor Whitmer, Quentin Messer, the right place, Randy Thalen, Bill Pink, who's on the board of the MEDC, I think the Strategic Fund, if I'm not mistaken, also president of Ferris State University. So you appreciate the role of holding people to account that have had a seat at the table here and really didn't do the due diligence as they should have. And I would note also that you may remember there was a hearing, I think, in the Senate, and I think Senator McMorrow, who I think supported the deal, asked Quentin Messer, about the due diligence done, and heretofore, when it came to the Gotion deals and the cattle deal, he had said that all had been done and super due diligence, and thorough and squeaky clean. And then when she pressed him on that question, and I'm glad she asked it, he had acknowledged that we really didn't do the due diligence that we ought to have. And really, sadly, too little, too late. And that should have been a thing on the front end done.
As to the $23.6 million that has been dispersed to Gotion, do you think that we'll be successful in getting some of that money back, all of that money back, and what would be different about this situation to where we might be to get some of that money back where maybe we wouldn't in other circumstances?
Could you repeat the last part of your question there, Representative?
Yeah, I guess just, with this $23.6 million that's been dispersed to Gotion, do you think we'll get all of that back or some of it back? And are there any elements of this that might make it more likely that we'd get it back than in other circumstances?
I don't know. I think whenever you're dealing with a company that's deeply tied to the Chinese Communist Party, all bets are off. So they have the money. They could walk away from it. In the midst of all of this fog of war, or whatever you want to call it, as this deal unraveled, it seemed like the center of gravity of what they wanted to do shifted to Manteno, Illinois, anyway, where they are in operation or soon to be in operation. I guess it remains to be seen. I can tell you that I'm picking up from the locals that there apparently is a company here in Michigan that I think they're trying to make lemonade out of the lemon, so to speak, and have a company come in and pretend that all is well. But again, I think that this applies to both sides of the aisle. I'm very concerned that if that is indeed afoot, it is being done fast and in secret. The same problem that got us here in the first place. That's why we're here today. So I would just urge caution there and keep an eye on that if you might, you and your colleagues. So I would just say we'll just have to see. I think a couple of things are being maneuvered here. I understand MEDC may sue Gotion, and as in all, if it comes to that, but parties often try to settle out of court, and they may. I mean, we'll just have to see. But I hope the better angels prevail in this instance, as they haven't in the past.
Good. And I guess towards the concern, making sure that we're cautious, what should we do in terms of a process when we're considering deals with companies from foreign countries? Is there any special investigation or research that should be done, like perhaps a CFIUS review or something of that nature? And was it done?
Superior question. I was reached out to in early February of 23. My first engagement with this out just after my former ambassadorial colleague and now ambassador to Canada, Peter Hoekstra, wrote an op-ed in the Detroit News. And a local elected official in Big Rapids Township reached out to me, and they were looking for direction, help, advice, what to do. And the first thing I suggested was that they explore a CFIUS review. And they reached out to Gotion. They were not playing nice. It's a very turnkey thing. If there's nothing to hide, just open your books. There are states underway, discussions in states underway, and there may be practices in states in place where a state version of the CFIUS review is in place. So whether the MEDC stays or it goes, I would just implore you and your colleagues to do a deep dive on structuring a vetting process where strict scrutiny and due diligence is done, particularly when it comes to adversarial regimes like China, companies that are based there. And I would in this, their corporate officers are named, their passports are seen. Pardon me, and a lot could be found out from that. I would also say that. I would be happy to facilitate contact with friends that have worked in this space. They're experts that could help forge sort of a checklist for you to consider and shape and put sort of the state of Michigan a touch on it. I would think that it ought to be done in all instances where such adversarial regimes are known. I think there's a package of bills out there that applies to North Korea, Venezuela, Iran, China, Russia. perhaps North Korea. But I think a particular mind should be placed on critical minerals and technology, but also in arrangements, particularly in EVs. And I don't know, they'll be a part of our future. I don't know how much, but I think that not enough care or attention has been given to Western-based, allied-based companies, American-based companies that are on the move and really making an impact in this, like Samsung, for instance. Tesla's linked up with them for their, I think, their next battery. And really, we should give them a first swing at the ball rather than a company tied to the Chinese Communist Party.
And I think my last question for you is, should we keep the MEDC in Michigan? Should we transform that MEDC? Should we scrap it and start over, scrap it and replace it with nothing and just let the free market run its course? What would your take be?
Important question. Just speaking to it earlier, I would just say that this has almost become, without diminishing some successes that may have been had in some states, and I don't know the full track record there, or certainly in Michigan, but it's sort of this a fad that's developed amongst states, I would say, with unknown, without a deep and broad analysis of the ROI, I would say mixed results. So I think that Michigan came a long way for a long time without the existence of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, through real raw grit, private capital, hard work by corporations to get to where they are at. Very impressive stories are out there for Michigan companies. So if I had a vote, and if I were to encourage the next governor, I would say that the MEDC should be shuttered, sell the building, and you can bring these duties into the office of the governor, surrounded by a core group of staff that know business deals. I would say experts that know private sector deals and know capital markets and know how to provide the necessary checks and balances in a very transparent way with best practices and stress tests in all respects that this certainly lacked.
Seeing no further questions, I appreciate you coming in today, as always, Ambassador Sella. And without any further business, the committee will stand adjourned.
Thank you, sir.